Welcome to our video on getting references into desktop EndNote. This is the second in a series of 4 videos on getting started with using this software to manage your references. In this video, we'll be looking at downloading references from the Library Catalogue Enterprise, the Library's Discovery Service Summon, Web of Science, one of our big databases that covers all subjects, Google Scholar, and also PubMed as an example of a database which is a bit different from standard. We'll also look at typing in reference details for things that you can't download, such as web pages. There are 2 ways of downloading book details from the Enterprise Catalogue. If you want to select items from your results and download multiple ones at the same time, just click on the checkbox to the left of each item, go to the Select an Action menu and select Export to EndNote RIS. If you just want to do one book at a time, just go into the full details of the book you want to download. Once again, go to the Select an Action menu, which this time is on the right of the screen, and select Export to EndNote RIS. This will download a file which EndNote can understand. You simply click on that file and it will carry those details through to your EndNote library. It's a good idea to check that it's brought through all the details you'll need, so just double click on the reference and you'll see the summary panel on the right, and if you go to the edit view you can see which fields have been completed. So we've got the author, the year and the title, but for a book reference we also need the place published and the publisher's name. So what we need to do is flick back to the catalogue and find those details. So Edinburgh is the place published and the publisher is Elsevier Mosby, so I can copy that from there, come back to EndNote, so place says Edinburgh in the place and the publisher is Elsevier Mosby, and then just come down and check that if it's got an addition you just actually need the number, so 4th in this instance. So now we've got a complete reference that we can cite in our work, so just save that. You can also download from Summon, the library's discovery service, and there are 2 ways once again of doing this. To download the details of one item from Summon, go to the Cite this item button, which looks like double quotes, and select at the bottom of the screen Export as EndNote, and this will download a file just with details of that one item. If you want to download multiple items from your Summon search results, click on the Save this item tab just to the right of each item that you want to download. Then you can mark as many as you want, and they will go into your Saved Items folder, which is at the top right of the screen. So once you've finished marking items, click on the tab in the Saved Items folder and select Export to EndNote, and it will behave in exactly the same way as we saw in Enterprise. It will download a file, but this time it will have 3 items in it. I simply open that file and the details are carried through into EndNote. So I've got 3 more items in my EndNote library, and if we just look at the details you can see that it brings through all of the authors, the year, the title. There may be things that you just need to tweak with the information that's come through, such as capitalisation, and in a later video I'll talk a little bit more about edits that you may need to make to references. So that's downloading from Summon. Web of Science is a big database which covers all subjects. To download reference details from here, once you've run your search and you're looking at your results, you can once again download an individual one just by clicking on it and going in, or you can download multiple ones by clicking on the checkbox just to the left of each item, the same way that we've just done on Summon. Once you've marked the items you're interested in downloading, at the top of your results list go to the Export menu, and this is the usual terminology that most databases will use for this, so look for Export and in this case select EndNote Desktop. You've then got another screen where you can choose how many you download. So it's remembered I've selected 3, or I could do all the records on the page, or I could download up to 1,000 at a time if I wanted to. You can also choose how much detail you get, and it can be useful to download the abstract as well. So I'll select that option and then click on Export. Then it behaves in exactly the same way as we've seen with the other databases. Just click on the downloaded file references, and those will be carried through to your EndNote library, and once again you can check the details and edit anything that needs changing. It is possible to download brief reference details from Google Scholar. If you run your search and click on Cite underneath any item you want, scroll down and there's an EndNote option here. The other option is to set up Google Scholar, so you see this import into EndNote link underneath each reference. To do that, go to the three lines at the top left of the screen and go into your settings, and at the bottom in the Bibliography Manager section, select to show links to import citations into EndNote, and then save your preferences, and then you will see this extra option appearing. This will only allow you to do one reference at a time. If you want to do multiple references, you'll need to log into Google Scholar with a Google account, and then you can use the My Library feature to save details of any useful references, which you can then export to EndNote from. So if I want to save details, I can click on Save. That's marked those items, so they're now in My Library. So if I click on My Library on the right of the screen, I can then export all of the references into EndNote. PubMed is an example of a database that uses slightly different terminology. Instead of using export, it has a send to button. So when you're looking at your search results on PubMed, once again, you can mark the ones you're interested in by clicking in the checkbox. And just above your results list, there's an option to click Send to, and you want to select Citation Manager from that list. You can then, just like on Web of Science, change how many items you're downloading, so you could do all of your results or all the results on a page, and once again you just click Create File, and then it behaves in exactly the same way as we've seen on the other databases. One thing just to notice with the downloaded references from PubMed is that the journal names will always come through in an abbreviated form, and that will make your references inconsistent, so that's something you will need to check. Find out the full journal name just by Googling the abbreviation, and then change that in your references. If you are unable to download the reference details for something, you can type them in manually into EndNote so that you can include them in your full list of references. So for instance, this is an academic document that I want to include. And for something like this, you would need 5 bits of information. So the first bit you would need would be the author, which may be an organisation, as in this instance. You'll need the title. You need the date that it was updated or created, which is quite obvious in this case, but may not always be so for web pages. So you may need to check your referencing guidance to find out what you do if you can't find a date on something. You'll also need the web address for the page and the date that you looked at it. So if I wanted to add this into my EndNote library, I simply come in here and click on the New Reference button, which looks like a clipboard with a plus on it. This will open up a separate window, and here first of all I need to select what it is I'm referencing. Now there's a very long list of different types of publication that appear here. But for most web-based documents, if it's not an article or a book, you would select web page. And this will subtly change the boxes that appear here for you to fill in. So the first thing we put in is our author, and as you can see it's predictively trying to match on things that are already in my library. So I've already got a reference by this organisation. And key thing to notice here, if you have got an organisation as an author, is to put a comma after their name, and that will make sure that it gets formatted correctly. If you had a person responsible for the web page, you simply put them in with their surname first, comma, space, first names or initials. And you'll see it's appearing in red because I've not got something by me already in my library. It's not something to worry about, it's just showing you that that's a unique entry. If you have more than one author, as you can see, you type them in on separate lines. So I'll get rid of me So then you add in the year and the title. So if I go back to my web page, I'm going to copy the title from here, and it's 2021. So if I go to my new reference window, so 2021, paste in my title. It's customary for something like a NICE guideline to put the guideline number after it. So this one is NICE guideline 197. So I'll pop that in there. And then coming on down, there's lots of boxes here that you can just ignore. So one thing we definitely need is the web address. So I'm just going to copy that from my page and then go back to my new reference window. And the web address box is a long way down. Look for URL and paste it in there. Now the last thing you need for a web page is the date that you looked at the information, and where you put this information is dependent on what referencing style you're using. So if you're using the Cite Them Right Harvard date style, you put the details in the access date in the format day, month in full, and then the year. For other referencing styles, you may need to use the cited year and date. So if you were using Vancouver, for example, you'd put the year in here and you put the date, the month and the day in the date cited. So those are all the bits of information I need. So if I just save that reference and close that window and then go back to my EndNote library, we can see it's been added in just at the bottom of the screen here. So if I double click on that, I can see it, I can see the details, and if I go to the summary view, I can see what that reference will look like in the Cite Them Right Harvard style that I've got selected here. So that's all you need to do to type in references, is go to the new reference button, select what it is and fill in the key boxes. If you're not sure which boxes to fill in, take a look at our Citing References guide, which will show you which bits of information you need to include when you're citing different types of publication. So that's a quick guide to adding references into your EndNote library, whether you can download them from databases or type them in manually. Move on to our next two videos. The first one covers editing and organising your references in EndNote, including attaching PDFs to those references if you wish. And the last one is all about using those references in Word documents using the Word plugin. But if you do need help with adding anything to your EndNote library, please do contact your academic liaison librarian for support.